Well, I get up. I went to Northfield Park to train some horses today, and it was pouring rain. So there's no training today. Jason's Coffee said, we'll jog them lightly, and I'll come in tomorrow and train them. I got a lot to do today, so it gave me an opportunity to do my videos, do some driving. I had to run around to a number of different places and get some of that stuff done. And so I guess although I hate the rain, it's important. One, it's important that we get it, but two, they can train the horses tomorrow. So, a number of things to talk about. Topping the list, we'll go through briefly. I want to talk about some horses that raced well, or maybe some horses that didn't race well. I want to talk about a real problem in racing right now. Not just in our stable, in racing right now, which just another problem that COVID-19 caused, and I didn't realize it until I spoke to somebody about it today in depth earlier in the morning about why it is so hard to get our horses in to go. Now, there's two problems. One, for instance, I'm looking at the races last night and I'm like, even racing at Northfield in the past, you know, our 2-year-olds have done well in the maidens. They've used them as a good stepping stone. And then the last few weeks here, Ontario, you get in with these 3-year-olds that can really bounce, and you're like, geez, it's not very fair to our 2-year-olds have to trot in 57, 58 their first lifetime start, because that's what they have to do. And then you think about it, why are those horses in those classes still? Well, those 3-year-olds would have been racing in April and May. No racing in April and May. Those 3-year-olds that would not have been maidens when our 2-year-olds got to the races, well, they are. They are still. So what you're left with is it's such a weird place. It was pouring down the road, and it's virtually sunny here. What you're left with is a lot of maiden classes that are tough, and it makes it really difficult for us. Now, the stable.ca has a different problem. We have entered a number of horses in maidens, 3-year-old maidens, 4-year-old and younger maidens, 2-year-old maidens, non-winners of 2, and we can't get them in because they're not taking our entry. They're treating Kevin McMaster and Jason McGinnis and Mario Bergeron and Harry Polton as one, which is unfair, right? If you're going to handicap the stable, then why are we buying horses for your track? And I sent them an email last night and explained this to them. In this particular case, if you could say, well, a 1% owner own one horse, own a share in that one and that one. There are common owners in the programs. I've seen them, where one trainer will train for one guy, and that particular guy might own a portion of another horse under a different trainer, and they get in, which is exactly what they're telling us we can't do. So I had sent them an email. You know, originally I didn't want to rock the boat, and I thought that as the stakes started, those races would clean out a little bit, and they'd be written more, and we'd get in. Didn't happen. I had a very stressful call with Kevin yesterday, who was irate that he wasn't irate. I think he understood the problem. He was angry that Sebastian Yu got in ahead of Timo Houdini. Well, Sebastian Yu raced on June 16th. Today's the 11th of July, and has been entered and didn't get in. Timo Houdini raced on the 18th, so obviously Sebastian Yu will get in ahead of him. Now, Timo Houdini hasn't raced since June 18th and is not in to go this week. It's unfortunate, and it shouldn't happen, right? Woodbine simply can't, and in my email I had said to them, if we didn't have the stable.ca moniker, you know, that banner on every horse, you would have to take those entries, even if there was a small common owner, which doesn't make it very fair, right? It's tough for me to brand our product when they're saying, well, no, if it doesn't look like they're coming from the same place, then it should be fine. This industry has to realize that it has to stop counterpunching, right? The problems of the industry right now are not easily solved, but we have to look for solutions. We're all extremely lucky to be racing right now at all. And I don't want to get angry at Woodbine, because they've done an incredible job getting us back racing, keeping everybody safe, ensuring that our racing industry stays strong moving forward. They've done an incredible job doing this, so it's hard for me to send this email and blast them. So I wrote the email angry. I went back and changed it a number of times because I don't want it to have an angry tone. Because this isn't a problem that's going to affect everybody. It is affecting us. We've had to move 17 horses out of Ontario over the last 2.5 weeks that otherwise could be there. But they can't be there because they can't get in a race, right? And I have people saying, hey, is the horse not going to get in this week? Or I don't know, right? Is the class going to fill at Georgian? Is the class going to fill at Mohawk? And this is all one big problem. As I'd said a couple of minutes ago, those 3-year-olds that are in the non-winners of one wouldn't be there if we were racing in March and April, right? We would have more room, but they're not right now. So I've politely asked Woodbine to review their entering policies and understanding that just because Kevin McMaster, Harry Polton, Jason, Oliver and Mario are all employed by the stable, doesn't mean they all have the same owners. We have owners all over the world, and to say that Joe in Missouri, who owns 3% of a horse, and this didn't happen in this case, but Joe from Missouri owns 3% of Sebastian Ewan, owns 1% of Timo Houdini. Is there really any reason that they can't race in the same race under 2 different trainers? I think what needs to be is they need to lay the groundwork, the foundation of, okay, what constitutes an entry? If Kevin enters a horse, and Jason enters a horse, and Mario enters a horse, and Harry enters a horse, all for the same class, which I don't like anyway. I don't like our horse racing against each other, but nevertheless, in this particular case, they have to. What constitutes that entry being allowed or disallowed in that regard? And the fact that they're all employed by the stable.ca can't be one of them. Not unless you just simply not unless you simply just don't want us to race our horses or buy horses. How can I expect our clients to buy a bunch of young horses knowing that I can't develop them all in Ontario? Really, that's what it boils down to, is the ability to develop our horses in Ontario. And if that isn't the case, then I have to review our purchasing policies also and say, fine, I guess come May we have to have a stable in Ohio. We have to have a stable in Pennsylvania. I don't want to do that. It's costly, and it's not necessary, I don't believe. Is it fair that Mr. Safey in Michigan has to wait a month to see his horse race because Jason McGinnis entered a horse that he had every right to enter? You don't think the people that own Sebastian Ewan are wondering where the hell their horse is? Look at Felix last week. Had to wait 3 weeks to race just for me and you, and she makes a break at the gate. She is now leaving for Pennsylvania. Whereas she didn't have to leave for a few weeks. She may not have had to leave at all. She is now. Path of Totality. Made a break in the qualifier in Pennsylvania the other day, but aside from all that, she could have been in Ontario. Can't have her there. Rooney Blue Chip. I've been talking to Angie Coleman about taking Rooney Blue Chip to Illinois. That might be a surprise to our clients. I haven't even told them yet that this potentially could happen. But I have to get our horses in where they can do good. Then you look at the 3-year-old maiden trot. Now one is a 1 or 7,000, went 55-4 the other night. Now that's a fast mile. Now one is a 2 trot, and I'm just as guilty. Spirit of Dio won the non-winners of 2 or 15. That is the lowest class above the maiden. I won that class in 53-2, a trotter. So, and it's not that these races aren't flying everywhere. They're flying everywhere. But it's an industry we have to be able to adapt, right? Because if people can't race their horses and their horses can't do good consistently, they'll just get rid of them. And then, you have a shortage of horses down the road, because that's what'll happen. If everybody just gets rid of their bad horses, down the road, there will be a shortage at some point, all because of virtually COVID-19. Those horses that were stogging the maiden and the non-winners of 2 would be somewhere else. But they're not right now, right? They're sitting there. And it makes it impossible for us. Not only did we try and race our young horses against 3-year-olds, but they drew the outside. I think our first 5 horses, 5 2-year-olds we raced, drew the outside post, which is an incredible, the odds are incredible, I would think. Improbable is how I put it before. They drew the outside. We weren't complaining. We wanted to go whatever. We drew 8. We wanted to get some work into our horses, but then we can't get them back in to go. That's my girl. Raced once. Has a stake race on the 21st. Can't get her raced. I'm going to school her at Northfield next week and send her to Indiana. We'll touch on that later on. We found a trainer, I believe, that I can work with, and it looks like I'll be able to go and race them for the first little while, so that makes me a little happy also. For a year when things didn't work out in Pennsylvania, I'm able to pivot and transition to Indiana, which is good. I'm happy to be able to do that. We'll talk about the trials and tribulations of being in the U.S. later, but I did want to touch on the biggest problem we had in the stable.ca right now is the ability to race our horses. So hopefully that's addressed. As I said, I'd sent a very polite, poignant email to the powers that be of Woodbine. I did hear back from them. They are reviewing it. So hopefully we'll have an answer that is helpful anyway. For those of you that own Time El Houdini, I am terribly apologetic for the entire situation. There's nothing more I can do. And if Woodbine comes back and says, it's just the way it is, he might be going to Illinois also. A big horse, big track, easy racing. But this is the problem, right? Is that now you're chasing us. Virtually, the way I see it is if that's the stance they're going to take, which I doubt it is, but if that's the stance they're going to take, then I guess we're going to have to reevaluate how we race all of our horses moving forward. In the fall, when Woodbine does get short, and we do start seeing those text messages, we need a horse for the Nowners of 2, Nowners of 3, you won't be able to call us because our horses will be somewhere else, and I'm not taking them home because you now need us when you seemingly didn't before. There has to be give and take, and all I'd asked them to do was revisit their entering policies, and I hope they do. So that is a huge deal at the stable.ca. Now, when we look at the horses that we have ready to race, a lot of them, all the ones that we're able to race are ready to race. When we look at those horses, what do we do? So there's a number of horses that just aren't good enough, right? Either they're not good enough right now and they need time, or they aren't good enough overall, and we have to look into selling those horses. So 2 things coming up this week, and I've talked to, and I will over today and tomorrow, a number of the clients that own those horses. You guys know who you're at, right? And my partners on the horses. It's not hard to figure out that I own a big chunk of these horses because they just weren't selling, right? And that's what kind of a surprise I got with Brilliant Corners the other day, but that's why we all love this game, right? We never know who's going to be good and who's not until they are and they aren't. But we need to be able to be fluid about that, right? Whether it be our horses can't get in. We had talked about Excellent Nation, Rose Run Valiant, Susie K. You know what? Let's try them in the fairs. Let's get them in to go. We can race them in between. Now we can't. 300 entries at Northfield here for Wednesday. None of our horses got in. So now we're back to looking at, is this the best way forward for us as a stable, as a barn, as a company, I guess? If we can't race our horses, can't get them in to go, that's a real problem, right? It's hard enough to find a class they can win, but if you can't even race, then that's even worse, I think. So we have to be able to make some changes, and I think we will. We were contacted. One of our partners is one of the key people behind the app Hoofbid. So if you guys are interested at all, download the app Hoofbid on your thing. It's a way to purchase horses and sell horses online. Now, I know Jeff has done a great job. The site looks great. In the past, we've used Standard Break Canada or OnGate. Those did not. Those worked well. So Jeff had contacted us with having a dispersal sale for the stable. You know, we could frame it and have all the horses in there you want to put in there. And I think there is a number of horses that we can put in there, and I think we will. Next Wednesday, we'll have a sale, and I know that Surreal Love, Rito Sunshine, the Fat Cobra, possibly Overdue Mission, the race last night, even though I know it wasn't her fault, and even though I know she can win the maiden. You know, we'll put reserves on some of the horses. I'm not going to give them away. They have a worth, and just because they're not worth it today doesn't mean that they're not worth the money. You know, I'm not going to take $5. Like, I'm not going to sell horses for nothing. But at the same time, there is an opportunity, and it is worth talking about and exploring putting these horses in some of the sales. Now, on the other side of that, we have horses that we're going to turn out. Cut the Line, qualified in 58 yesterday. Sent a message out to all our clients. She can't do, I think, and Kevin says, or Mario says the same thing also, is that, you know, she seems like she's talented. She seems like she wants to do it. She just doesn't, and what he was trying to say was she doesn't have all the tools, right? She's not there yet. It feels like she could be. She's just not there yet. And a filly like her, we're just going to turn out and let her grow. We had her brother brush cut, still do, and brush cut's knees bothered him too, and her knees bother her also. So it's not a horrible detriment to turn the horses out. When you look at the 2-year-old fillies, the Gold's going in 50. Grassroots are going to go 54, 55 all year. Do you want to chew your own horse up just to say we're racing her? I don't think so. So there's a number of horses that are going to be turned out also, given some time. So we have sales, and this will, it sounds murky right now because we don't know specifically. I'll work on a hard list, but I can tell you there's probably between 9 and 12 or 13 horses that will be on the hoof bid sale, in the sale, and there's another, I don't know, 5 or 10 that will be turned out. We need to get the barn down to an operating scalable model where this is our starting crew, right? This is our starting team, and they're going to be racing all summer. You know, we have White Tiger back going now. He's in. Oso Pine is on the doorstep of being ready to go. Cavill Hanover is back. Yes, is going to start training at the end of the month. He'll be back in the fall. You know, then we have all these 3-year-olds that have talent. Look at Spirited Dio. Like, she looks very good. Harness AM raced good the other day in Pennsylvania. Obviously, different types of horses, but nevertheless, still good horse. I know Path of Totality, it was timing the other day. What happened was, you know, somebody looked up and said, what happened to the filly? I said, well, apparently the guy grabbed her going. He said, what guy? I said, it shows you qualifying the horse. No. So what happened was I left Northfield. I left Ohio at 6:30 in the morning to drive to the Meadows. I wanted to warm up Path of Totality. Kevin had said, you know, probably put the hobbles on her. It's probably best, I guess. I wanted to make sure she was okay. I get about 45 minutes down the road. So maybe I left at 6:45. I get 45 minutes down the road, flat tire. I can remember getting a flat tire once in my life. That was on vacation in PEI on a rental. It's flat. It's not you have a low tire. It's 14,962 gone. Like, it's immediately flat. So there's a hole in it. I look on my phone. I Google tire repair place close to me. 2.9 or 3.2 miles away. 5 kilometers or something. I just put it in drive. Drive slow all the way there. Pull into the tire place. And here's the thing. Two things. I've said this before. One, I don't know how to change a tire. Sure, I'm sure somewhere rattling around in my head is the knowledge to get the key thing out of the glove compartment, get the jack out of the trunk or wherever the hell it is. But I know it doesn't have a spare. Cars now, you know, because spares are so expensive, they can't put a spare in the car. Like the little donut things they used to put in, they don't put them in anymore. So there's no spare in my car. I just drive it. I'm not calling CAA or AAA or whatever the hell it is. I just drive it the 3 miles. Nice and slow, 30 kilometers an hour, 20, whatever. Pull in. I said to the guy, I got a flat tire. He goes, you drove it here? Yeah. Well, you don't have AAA? I said, I don't have time for AAA. I have to be in Pennsylvania in an hour and a half to make the race. Not to warm up is gone now. There's no warm up now. Just to make the qualifier. Okay. Takes it in, he goes, yeah, your tires, there's a hole in it and it's ruined anyway. I said, I assume so. He said, geez, he said, the problem we have is we don't have that tire. You don't have that tire? I'm looking around your showroom, there's 400 tires here. And he goes, well, we don't have that particular tire that goes on your car. I said, listen, Joe, is it? Listen, Joe, just pick a tire and put it on the car. Well, I said, from a layman's standpoint, they're all black, they're all round. Just pick a tire, put it on the car. He goes, well, it'll be a different size. And then he goes, I said, okay, this is what we'll do. You put a tire, any tire you want. Pick one. Put any tire on the car. I'll go to Pennsylvania. On my way home, I'll come back here to Youngstown, Ohio. Right here. To the tire repair place. Frisky Tire, whatever the hell it's called. And you can put the tire of your choice on my car. He said, that's a problem too. He said, because that tire will take 3 days to get here. I said, Joe, are you making these tires? Surely to Jesus, you can get the tire. It's a Malibu. You can't drive 20 minutes down the road without passing or watching a Malibu go by you. How is it that you can't have a tire for a Malibu? He said, oh, they're special tires. I said, all right. Why don't we just go with the first part of that then? Can you just put a tire on my car? Well, I can put one that's similar. Joe, whatever you want, man. Just put a tire on, please. I got to get going. All the hustle and bustle, all the talk, everything, $27 to put the tire on the car. I get to Pennsylvania just in time to watch Path of Totality make a break in the first turn. I'm literally walking up the hill with my helmet, my whip on. I walk up to the fence. Oh, there's Path of Totality. Yep, she run right there. Made a break. So, a kid, Jeremy, a nice kid, is going with the filly. I'm 18 minutes away, and I called Tim. I said, Tim, 3 things about this filly. She's a little funny with her mouth. You can't grab her. She can shut her air off easy, so don't grab her. And you got to give her lots of room in the turns. She'll make a break in the turns. You know, now you have hobbles on. Maybe she's better. Just give her room in the turns. Yep. Jeremy's hanging up the lines. I said, what happened, kid? Well, she was getting into the turn, and Mike was leaving with me, Mike Wilder, and I grabbed her getting into the turn to let him go, and she threw her head and made a break. You accomplished all 3 things in an 1/8 of a mile that I told you. I know Tim told him. I know he did. Like, Tim's a meticulous person. So he says this, and I know I see Tim. And so Joe at Frisky Tire, thanks for changing my tire. Need to be a little quicker on the draw next time. So Path of Totality will qualify next Thursday. Now, for all of you doing the math quickly, yes, I have days next Thursday, but you should need a special driver to qualify Path of Totality. I said to him, Dan Rawlings was there. We were talking about it. I said, hey, Dan, can you go with that filly next week? Give her room in the turns. Don't grab her going into the turn. Can you handle that? And he goes, yeah, I can do that. So Dan Rawlings will qualify Path of Totality next Thursday. You know, it's easy to laugh about, but it's not funny. And I'm one of your partners on this filly. This pisses me off. But this is what COVID did, right? You guys saw how well she trained during our downtime. And to not see that translate yet is frustrating, but, you know, welcome to horse racing. That's just the way it is. It will test your patience sometimes. So, so that's 2 rather long stories to start off your weekend videos. But there is good news. There's good news. Let's get to the good news. The good news is Globetrotting raced great last night. A couple of people said, she was 4th and she looked a little bumpy. She ripped her right front shoe off. Now, the reason she's ripping that shoe off is because her feet are so brittle. And they shouldn't be brittle. Maybe they are because we'd made so many shoeing changes. Maybe they are because we just have been tubbing them and pulsing them, trying to get all that stuff out of them. Either way, her feet are brittle. And I just said to Jason, I said, here's what we're going to do. It's 3 weeks before the Ohio State Fair, the race she's in down here. I said, have the blacksmith chop all her toes off, right down to the white line. Now, we've talked in the past about how we don't like going down to the white line because it's tender for a horse, and it is. But that white line is where that theoretically where that hoof will start to grow. And if we take all of the dead, useless foot off that's there, that may be compromised at this point, we'll start to grow healthy foot. So take all the toe off her, put 4 full swedges on her, let's get her back to work. She looked great last night. I didn't want to put her in a position to run. Had she not been coming off a break, I suppose the way she felt, I could have come first over where I would have been first or second. I'm certain of that. Surely everybody else is. Ron Burke's filly raced good, but I had lots of trot. She finished up with the earplugs in her ears and the bit in her mouth, which is not something I like to do when we're in a stake race, but at the same time, at no point in the mile did it ever leave my mind. This is Globetrotting. She's coming into this race not 100%. We have a multitude of stake races, both in Ohio and Grand Circuit and out of Ohio, coming up throughout the summer and fall. We need to get this filly back on track. And that was the message constantly in my mind the whole time. Could I have come first over? Absolutely. Could I have shoved that kid out 3 wide and snuck out down the backstretch? Probably, yeah. Did I shove him 3 wide in the last turn? Yes, I did. But at the same time, I wanted Globetrotting to feel good about herself when she finished up the mile. Not at a gear and rough and, oh, I kept her trotting through the wire. She was closing in down the wire. Now, I knew I wasn't going to be third, and I wasn't going to even remotely put her in a position to make a break to be third for the sake of a couple of grand and then have to qualify her. God forbid she made a break. So I just let her idle through the lane. Finished up 4th, but raced really, really good. I was really impressed with her. You know, when we look at her stable, I just jotted down a few names, and I truly apologize if I missed somebody's horse that is clearly a good horse. I know Margot is going to be saying her horse is on the list, but this was just a list I made quickly. You know, when we look at Globetrotting is here, we're not talking about Spend That Money in Compass Rose DC. They're in the Buckeye, and they're good horses, but we won't talk about them. Walk on the Moon, 27-4 on the end of it, just got beat the other night in 57. Mario drove him perfect. The horse looked like $1 million. He got beat by a horse that, I saw this horse qualify, the Macho Lindy or whatever, a couple of times. He's got some freak speed, fast. He does make breaks. He does run in. He's going to struggle on a smaller track than a 7/8, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Bob did a fantastic job keeping him together the other night, and just idle by Walk on the Moon. You could see how fast the Lindy horse was, but Walk on the Moon's got such a beautiful gait. He's going to be handy all year, and I could be wrong, but if they hook up 5 times this year, Macho Lindy won't beat us all 5. I don't think. I could be wrong. No Free Lunch raced great in the stake race last week. 28 flat in the end of it, even 1:53. Seemed a little bit flat for him the way he was. We took the flip-flops off him. He's racing tonight in Ontario. Again, I hate talking about horses that are going to go in case I jinx them, but James, as a driver, one issue we have, I always had, was Georgian Downs draws, sorry, in this case, it's the other way around. Mohawk drew Tuesday for, I guess I'm wrong. That's not a problem now because they didn't do the changes till Thursday. James opted to go to Georgian Downs. So no Free Lunch. Jonathan Drury's going to drive him tonight. Really expecting, maybe not good things tonight, but I want to see good things throughout the year from this colt. Really nice colt. Another horse that surprised the hell out of us, right? I was getting to Brilliant Corners, but Brilliant Corners is probably one of the biggest surprises of the entire year, right? Brilliant Corners is a horse that I said it the other day. There's just, I can say it a million different ways. His win and his positioning in the stable right now is highly improbable considering how he trained down. So one of my partners on the horse had called me and said, I need to hear this story. Cameron, you will. I'll tell you the story. And as I said, it's not a 1 beer, it's a 2 beer story, I think. But a lesson to be learned for people out there, in a good lesson. James and I always talk, right, about training the horses down. And I said, you know, there's no one way to train a horse down. You look at the way we train down, and we're very comfortable, happy, and proud of the way we train our horses down. But that's not the only way to train a horse down. You look at Brilliant Corners. He's been crazy and a lunatic his entire life. Spent lots of time on tranquilizer. Just, to be honest, my expectations were 0. And in fact, to be completely candid, I entered him in the Prospect Series in Dresden, and it didn't go. And Harry was smart enough and quick enough on his feet to say, well, it didn't go, we'll put him in the grassroots. So that's how Brilliant Corners ended up in the grassroots the other night, completely by accident. So you never know, and that's the great part of horse racing. You know, we started the video off talking about some shortcomings of the stable and some shortcomings of horse racing in general. And then you look at a story like Brilliant Corners, it's uplifting to say the least. So looking at the horses we have that are doing good, Globetrotting's on the march forward again. Brilliant Corners was fantastic. Walk on the Moon was fantastic. No Free Lunch has proven he's a good horse. War We Welcome picked a win and a gold tomorrow, and she's in a real good spot. Really, really happy what I've seen with her. Another small surprise this year so far, My Jazz. Yeah, she looked good, and we didn't know how good she was, but if I'd have told you she trot in 59 or 2 minutes her first start, you'd be excited. But off her... And again, there's another filly, drew the outside in a maiden, trotted in what, 2-3? 2-2, 2-1, something like that. Looked ordinary. And then you put her in a stake race situation with the 2.5 mile track, push through for position, put her in the race, and she's third. And between you and I, quite frankly, I could have won that race had I got to the outside. So My Jazz, another great story. Mama Knows Best, $4,000 yearling. She's been fantastic. She already took a lifetime mark of 158. Raced good the other day, just a victim of circumstance. Brett backed the half up and cut her loose. Cut his filly loose coming out of the turn. They trotted 27 apiece on the end of it. Mama Knows Best looked great, right? Roy Hill, as I said, was good the other day. I'm really impressed with Roy Hill. Brought him down here. If you put an open bridle on Roy Hill, it would be like opening the gate of the zoo before. Like, he's completely crazy. He's been had an open bridle and jog down here the last week over the shadows, around things. Just really maturing mentally as a horse, and I'm really proud of what Roy Hill has done. Ronnie Wren is driving him Monday or Tuesday, and I think he'll do very well. I said, listen, he hasn't been as good on the front. If you have to end up on the front, then fine. I guess we'll see what he's like. But he hasn't been as good on the front training down. If you could cover him up, that'd be great. But I'm really excited to see Roy Hill race first of the week. Momo qualified well here and has looked good here. She's in to go again. And now when you look at horses that have come forward in a big way, Brilliant Corners was seemingly our worst 2-year-old pace. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it's put, but it's the truth. When you look at Brilliant Corners, he was, as far as our Ontario sired pacing colts, 1 through 6 or 7, he was 7th or 6th, and has been the only one to win a stake race. So he's climbing the ladder quite quickly, and it looks he's going to stay up there also. And then you have a horse like Blue Monk, who I touted as our best. Thought he was all along. But what I also told you was we weren't going to race horses that had allergies. And the problem with allergies is you can't draw the blood and then there's this little marker that says allergies. You can't tell by that. There's indicators that it's allergies. If the white count is low, yet you scope them and there's mucus and redness in there, there's a good chance it's not viral. It's not bacteria, it's not infection. It's not a sickness. That it could be allergies. And that's what we saw the other day. So Roy Hill, or I keep saying Roy Hill. Blue Monk is a horse that we'll probably train midweek, scope him, and if we see those same things, I can tell you what happens. Here's what happens, and history will back me up on this. You have horses, you can't give cortisones and antihistamine anymore, so you can't treat. And I know there's a bunch of herbal stuff out there. Oh, my friend says that Johnny's Beehive and a bunch of other garbage works. It doesn't. Not on allergies, not for horses. You want to trail ride a horse and say it works on their allergies? Okay, fine, maybe you're right. You're not going in 53 with a 2-year-old racing on giving horses herbal stuff that's going to help with allergies. None that I've seen anyway, or heard of. So what happens in this case is, and you guys may have, if you have any kind of memory, think back to what happened with West 52nd and Oso Pine at 2. Two of our better trotters. Oso Pine was the best colt in Ohio at the time. I was certain he was. Got a little sick, and he bled. Both those horses ended up on Lasix as 2-year-olds at the end of their 2-year-old season. And I can guarantee you I know why. Because their allergies bothered them. We tried our hardest to treat them with a number of different things. The vets come in and we treated them. Couldn't get them right. And eventually, I think the stress and the strain of racing at their best, because they want to achieve everything they can, racing at their best caused them to bleed. And I'm not going down that road with Blue Monk. This is a colt that I think is a very, very good colt with a lot of racing in front of him. And if we train him on Wednesday, and that mucus and that redness and those pimples are still there, and it's confirmed that it is allergies, he will not race the rest of July. We'll get him ready again. He'll be ready to race towards the end of the summer. There's still lots of stake races for him, but I'm not jeopardizing the future of Blue Monk, a horse that I think is a very good horse, because we want to race. Wanting and doing what's right, it's not the same thing. And, we have to look out for them. And, fortunately, we have the clients, you guys, we have the trainers that understand that. I've told Mario that. And the vets will come in and tell you, no, you can treat the horse with this and that. No, go away. We're not treating the horses with that stuff, and I'm not a big fan, and nor do I think it works that well anyway, at all. So if Blue Monk trains on Wednesday and those signs of allergies are present without any blood work that would corroborate him being sick, he's going to be done for 3 or 4 weeks. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's where we're at with all the horses. Some good little mix of good news and bad news. Splash on some reality when it comes to horses that have to go or horses we have to turn out. And I'll leave you with good news. Rose Run Why Not and Gray is the New Red are both ready to start training. So tiny bit ahead of schedule. Green, this is all coming from the veterinarian, not from Anthony. They've been jogging for the last 10 days. They're going to start training on Wednesday. That's why we had them in the pool, to keep up their endurance. So I will keep you updated on that, but we may have, as I said and as I hoped, these horses could be ready for the end of the summer, and it's likely going to be a reality very, very soon. So that's everything that went on. That's your opening video. I'm going to take my stables and everything on the road with me. I got a number of things to do today, and maybe I'll multitask. See how that works out. I hope you guys are having a good day. It's raining here. I know it's raining in Ontario. I talked to a number of people. But the weather's been a little weird, but it's been pretty good weather. So it takes our mind off all the other insanity that's going on. If you're a Canadian, very lucky to be a Canadian, and the protocols we have in place. Border's a little tricky for me right now, but at the same time, I think it's important. And not to run down the Americans. You guys are working hard too. I'm here in Ohio. I see the people doing the things. Sure, there's some people that really maybe don't understand the science and don't want to wear a mask, but please, wear your mask. Stay away. Vaccine will be here soon. Okay, that's a lie. It won't be here soon. It'll be here in the winter. But I think this is just one of those times in our generation where I've never experienced anything where you remember. Sure, 9/11, things of that nature, you remember where you were and what you were doing. But this is like a world war, right? This is like something you look back and you have to, I said this twice the other day, you have to think to yourself, did it really happen that way? Did my memory, my recollection correct? I think it's one of those times. So everybody, I hope you're healthy, hope you're safe, and we'll get through this soon enough. Take care.